Hello there, Bravehearts, Urbanites, and Coach Mad Hatters, and welcome to the introduction to a series that has taken me a while to get in the mood to facilitate. So, welcome to the All Stars and Butterfly Effect series, and we're going to be working off the catalytic spark of the uh, the notion, the theory around the butterfly effect, meaning that very small movements can have very, very big catalytic effects, results, and that in combination with an all star mindset, an all star EQ vault, and EQ is emotional intelligence. So, using that as a divine trifecta lens, I'm going to share with you some comprehension that's been coming across my intuitive wavelengths. And we're just going to see how this is going to unfold. I'm going to free flow this. Now, I do have notes, but that's just to make sure that I plug in some of the things that have been paramount to me as I've been pondering some things over the last few weeks. And it's quite interesting because I've had to work myself up to even get in the mood to record. And it has something to do with what's going on in the outer limits of the society that I live in, been raised in, as well as me continuing on my quest to reconcile a lot of my own social conditionings and how it's uh, resulting in um, how it's manifesting as a result of my celestial paradigms and perceptions, how I view myself in conjunction with all that I am learning, and then brewing up the mood to share it. As I often say, I'm quite comfortable in my private zones. When I begin to share in the public domain, it is honestly outside of my comfort zone. And I know we are in the infusions of the metaphor that talks about entering into the wild unknown. For the last 6 months, any recording that I've ever uploaded um, into these public spaces have often spoke about my preparation to venture in to the wild unknown. We're going to keep that same theme with this series. So most often I will speak in metaphorical terms, in mystical terms, in magical terms, in metaphysical terms. I often speak about the realms of the imagination and the invisible. And that has a lot to do with the situations and planetary alignments in accordance to my birth chart. I am a tinkerer of the imaginal realm. Because I am still knee deep in scholarship, especially with regards to my intuitive studies, I often hesitate to speak aloud the things that I am contemplating and pondering, mainly because I'm very much still the student. But I'm also being challenged to this duality of being the teacher and the student simultaneously. So here we are. I will make my ritualistic disclosure to say I am not here to convince you, persuade you, coerce you into a different form of thought or feeling. What I am here to do is share my experiences and my encounters, maybe to latch on to certain qualities of affirmation as well as familiarity while we all venture into this wild unknown. It's not strange, for me at least, all that is unfolding and how things are now coming to pass. And honestly, it's in due of the style of scholarship that I find myself intermingling with. I tap into the treasures of tarot on a regular basis. I don't think a day goes by that I am not pulling from the cards so that I may at least have my own firsthand frequency with allowing certain messages from the celestial realm to land in front of my eyesight. I am an interpreter by nature. I am a seeker of certain wisdoms naturally. My life path number is number 7, which I have mentioned in various recordings, and it's my lifeline with regards to my purpose discovery portals. And I often like to say that when I step into something new, whether it's someone's house and I've never been in it before, or the acquaintance of a new person that I've never met before, or even just entering into a different or a newer theme of conversation with maybe folks that I know and love, but we've never freely or authentically unpacked a certain topic or discussion. I like to view them as portals. I love to view them as intellectual portals. Portals. Being a career student, especially in the realms of life learning scholarship, I have found that I am most comfortable behind a notepad and a pencil. I am an avid note taker. I even watch movies with the premise that I am going to stumble upon some type of message that's going to reveal or unlock the combination to something that I had already been searching for. I am addicted to signs and symbols because we do live in times that are riddled in chaos. One of my more greatest challenges, especially in my adult realm, is me gaining the frequency to decipher, to be able to translate the mystical, the mysteries, the magical instances and nuances of this human existence. My experiences and my encounters, um, when viewed in metaphorical terms, has rendered me such clarity that I know for a fact would not had come in any other form. I'm very grateful for my insight. And when I say insight, my inner sight. The way that things come across my eyes is usually from the right brain perspective. And I think that that has a lot to do with why I am internally being urged or pushed or poked to share certain things, uh, because the way that I see things is not of a conventional means. My Chiron in Aries is flared the fuck up. It is, it almost reminds me of the eczema that I suffer from. It's flared up. It's damn near agitated, but um I understand that there's silver lining inside of the the chaos, or should I say the catalytic chaos, because honestly, I do not believe that chaos comes with no agenda. I don't think chaos exists just for the sake of chaos existing. I believe chaos comes to shake things up. I believe chaos comes to usher in new while it dissolves or purifies that which is stagnant or old or stale or rotten. And I also believe that the eye of the beholder is actually the projector by which one can maneuver and understand certain things. So, with that said, I like to lead with the movie The Martian. And this is in sole honorarium of Aries season, um, as well as me just being a lover of Mars and all that fire that dwells within this archetypal character, or yeah, the seat, or the, how can I say, the spectrum of this archetypal characteristics. And I would like to keenly point direction to, I mean, well, keenly point attention in the direction to how the main character of the movie The Martian was left behind. And he was left behind on an unfamiliar planet by himself with limited resources. And he had to reconcile within himself it was time to survive. Now, even though he was not able to go on with his day to day existence as he was when his team was there, he took advantage of that alone time. And it quite amazed me this morning when this storyline popped into my head and was requiring me to do some comparing and contrasting in metaphorical terms, because social distancing, I am still grappling with if it is a tool of social engineering seasoned by uh, flavors of propaganda, or if actually we are dealing with situations that are requiring us to honestly quarantine. And when I say honestly quarantine, I mean that in reflection to the preparation that had been uh, urged, strongly urged, as a matter of fact. Um, I want to say, like, within the last 6 months, 6 to 8 months, within the last 6 to 8 months, there has been a signature theme coming across the pike, especially inside the tarot world, inside the metaphysical world, inside the mystical, magical worlds, of how it was time to buckle down. A new energy is ushering in, and it is of a strong divine feminine nature. And mama, is back in town. Big Mama is back in town, energetically speaking, and she is now requiring us to shake up this addiction to logic, and that it's time to tap into the more deeper fluids of our emotions and what it means, and that the almost like the water of the Nile rising up to once again replenish and restore the desert. And so even if we were to incorporate the metaphor with regards to the film The Martian, even though he was alone and had limited resources, he had to bring keen focus into his greedy, gluttonous nature, meaning, I only have this amount of this, that, and a third. There is no one but just me, so I have to be really mindful of how I spend my moment to moment. What's priceless about this storyline, in conjunction with what's going on with us right here, right now, is that we honestly do not know how long we are going to be with food and water. And I know many who are in the midst of recording and uploading for the sole benefit of sharing and caring, they tiptoe around not wanting to scare folks. Too late for that shit. So now that we're already into that realm, we've already stepped into the portal of the wild unknown. The best thing to do is to have the tough conversations. Honestly, in my point of view, it's okay to be frightened. Chaos is a frightening element. It's okay to face off with fears that one maybe had acted like they were not fearful of in the beginning or while this thing was softly unfolding. But in the midst of the storm, inside the eye of the storm, you literally would have to be a silly rabbit if you figure that you can face off with such uncertainty without being fearful of the unknown. The alchemist, the most grand magician, still has no idea of what's going to transpire from point A to point Z. Even the fool walks with caution. So I honestly don't speak to those that need their ego stroked. I do not speak to those that are afraid to face off with the shadows. This is not a place for you. Bravehearts, urbanites, and coach Mad Hatters. Those are the three categories that I address each time I come on here. And there's nothing conventional, traditional, or mainstream about any of them. And brave hearts do not mean you're not scared of anything. It means that you are fighting out of your damn boots and you still know that there are things that you must face off with. You must slay the Jabberwocky. And for many, to sit in solitude with self, that's a scary ass thing. Attention whores, to not be getting any firsthand physical attention, yeah, they are now being faced off of what their purpose is in life. So here's the grand thing about the film The Martian. Even though he was all alone with very, very limited resources and he did not know if he was going to survive or not, what he did on a day to day basis was took account of where he was, what he was thinking, how he was feeling. He did a captain's log on a daily basis. He timed and dated it without even being sure that anyone was going to find the remains of his verbal diary. He still took in account his highs and his lows just in accordance with his existence. I offer that up as Exhibit A for this series. More often, I have been advocating the increased momentum of keeping a journal and what journaling as a ritualistic activity could do for one's inner healing, one's emotional and mental reconciliations. And because the EQ vault is now open, many are being forced. Now, like I say, 6 to 8 months ago, it was the invitation for you to get with self, for you to begin to honestly give attention to how you really felt, how you honestly felt. Those that ignored that during that time is probably having a real tough time with their emotions right now. But there's still time to get in alignment. Freaking out, not gonna do you no good. Losing your shit, that's not going to do you any good either. Now, you can do it though. I am not here to tell anybody what to do. If you come across this and you are rolling with it and you have already taken out your notebook, your pencil, you're looking for the message within, I am not here to give you strict instructions. I am unpacking all, and whatever it is that you can grab hold to in the random rubble of what I am offering, salvage it, take it for what it's worth, and see if it can add to your moments of processing and contemplating ultimately your comprehension on how you're going to be maneuvering through this thing. I have always, since 2014, have been situating myself as an intra-personal developmental coach, meaning I am the tour guide, the facilitator of those that are seeking to venture inward, to take account into one's inner landscapings without judgment, without critical analysis. In my honest opinion, critical analysis is to serve as it's to serve in a pendulum nature where it swings out, swings in, swings out, swings in, meaning it's not to be honed directly on the inside or the outside. It's to take the temperature from both realms and feed it in through the heart and the mind, back through the mind and the heart, and process in that manner. Keeping one's journal populated with moment to moment renderings helps fine tune the symphony of what I just spoke about, aka the catalytic sparks. So now we are thrust into Martian mode. I'll give the soft reminder. We're speaking in metaphora. So whatever Martian life means to you, especially if you have no reference to the film. If you're one that have never even thought what it would be like to be contained on Mars, or you're not familiar with the cardinal aspects of Mars, I invite you to do some research and development around those areas so that your comprehension base can be a bit more plush, which will render you a better inner and understanding, mainly for the enrichment of self. I honestly am not sharing any of this for folks to get up on their soapbox, even though that's kind of mildly what I'm doing right now. But I'll say get up on one's soapbox without offering the the free flow of take it how it resonates. And if it does not resonate at all, honestly drop it like a hot potato. So Noam Chomsky effortlessly lectured about the magical incantations of public relations and social engineering. And he gives solid insight around how the human psyche is easily manipulated by those who truly understand the inner and outer workings with regards to human behavior and response. I tread lightly with saying that this may too be another episode, but I'm not going to fully push that as the series agenda. Because at the end of the day, the average person honestly do not know what's going on. Information is being fed through streams of media. For the last couple of days, inside of my conversations, I've been asking folks if they know firsthand of someone who's suffering from this and or who has died, or if the information that they are now pondering or they are now absorbing has solely come from some type of media outlet. Have they actually went into the medical centers and seen this or witnessed this? I am an advocate of first hand knowledge, but I'm also an advocate of authentic grapevine, the travels of the grapevine. But with that said, we truly run the risk of each time it passes through one's perception or psyche, it shifts or changes a bit. And there's psychological data that has proven that the story starts here, but by the time it gets there, it has shifted or changed in some kind of way. So we're going to deal in this thing that I like to call EQ Anarchy 2020. And I know anarchy is such a word that will ruffle folks' feathers, but just bear with me, just ride with me for a little bit. So, the ideology that involves the, or that can involve a society's varying sets of ethical ideas, pleasure principles, doctrines, myths, symbols, social movements, institutions, classes, groups, the social law and order, if you will. I would like for us to tune into what that means on an individual level with regards to one's emotions. Remember, I'm certified in social and emotional intelligence. So that's usually the lens or the microphone that I will express through, as well as my Chiron being in Aries. So my wounded healer is inside the first house, which has a lot to do with one's star power, one's individuality, one's emotional independence. And if you're quite familiar with my platform, you already know that when I talk about self, I'm not talking about the lowercase self. I am talking about capital S, capital E, capital L, capital F. Sacred slash Sankofa energy life force. And it really is all about the celestial force that dwells within the embodiment of flesh. And so I analyzing and observing one's experiences and encounters through the lens of being a celestial entity that's here inside of this realm to experience and encounter, to take stock, which is the cataloging inside of memory in conjunction with the 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 uh, the feedback drawn from one's thoughts and one's feelings. And that each time we contemplate and comprehend, data is being stored in the in invisible spaces that is often called the Akashic records inside the metaphysical inside of metaphysical scholarship. EQ Anarchy 2020, which to me constitutes the free reign of one to establish its own rules and declarations and pursuits of life, liberty, and I can't really say happiness, and I always get caught up when I think about it. So I've now decided to say the pursuit of life, liberty, and lifelong learning, because that whole pursuit of happiness pretty much means someone's going to be running from their shadows, and I can't firmly and authentically stand as a coach of emotional intelligence without the true analysis of my shadows. I can't just feed those that look to me for interpretation, feed them the notion that they are only to seek that which is positive, because that's not what existence is about. Existence is a symphony of happy and sorrow, good and bad, the fuckery of so-called evil. I mean, and honestly, if we are to be honest and true about this, there is more so called evil to contend with than it is good. Like, I often challenge folks to give an honest account of, and in percentage terms of it inside their lifespan of how much they've been happy versus how much they've either been traumatized or have had to deal with some type of hard test or trial. And I think my Capricorn sun has a lot to do with this particular type of focus, because we're often, and when I say we, I most of the time am speaking about my particular people and the generational grooming that has left us with the inability to focus properly on that which is not so good or not so fluffy and posh, to wallow in the mud emotionally has been something that has it's been the plight. Not even a component of the plight. It's been the plight while still being required to fake like you're happy. And so now it feels like I speak to the grievances of fake happiness. It's like like most emotionality is now addicted to this thing called happiness, even though it serves as the dangling carrot that is just beyond their grasp. I also know that we are dealing with an overwhelming amount of energy that is not authentic. That one will show up and act like they're happy when they're absolutely dying inside. They will stay in relationships that are raping them of their balance and their solitude and just their ability to think properly. They are contending and engaging and dealing with individuals that make them cave on the inside. They are not allowed to be who they authentically are due to false judgments, character assassinations. The rumor mill is out of fucking control. No one's vetting and validating anything. No one's taking the time to listen. No one's asking any questions. I had to giggle to myself not too long ago to say that there is only a handful of people who I actually engage in conversation where they ask me and be honestly interested in how I'm doing and what I'm doing. They are honestly curious about my existence. And I know the level of that across the board is relatively low. And that's, in my opinion, the reason why we have so many attention whores and why it is that things are so fucking lopsided. Why? Because we have yet to face off with the opportunities and the moments where we are allowed to just be without judgment, or be in those safe spaces with the individuals that we highly respect and care a lot about, and that it's just neutral space, no judgment. We've even gotten to the point where we will say there's no judgment and no shade, but one's tone of voice gives it away immediately. Folks can sense judgment just by tone of voice, by gesture, by body language and facial gestures. I've now gotten into the habit where I am challenging folks, especially couples, to have a conversation without speaking. And yes, it does include lovemaking, because that's one of the most grander vehicles of communication between two people who honestly love each other. And when I say honestly love each other, I mean that they, even if love has some conditions, they are proactively working toward those spaces where there are no conditions. I'm paying attention to you, you're paying attention to me. I am honestly intrigued about you, you are honestly intrigued about me. I wholeheartedly care about your advancement emotionally and intellectually, economically, financially, and vice versa. There is a true balance that toggles between I move and you move, just like that. And so that's what we are going to be slowly unpacking during this series, talking about all stars and butterfly effects. Because just the smallest gesture, the smallest movement, the smallest attention to detail can have catastrophic results. Sitting in solitude with self is a butterfly effect. Writing down what bubbles up to the surface, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is a butterfly effect. Taking what is being rendered through the makings of journal entries from moment to moment, day to day, can actually be contemplated and processed into powerful all star momentum. I love to say into the wild unknown we go. That is now my slogan. I'm getting it on a t-shirt. Anybody who wants to step out there and get it on a t-shirt before me, by all means. We have now stepped into the era of purpose discovery. Things are being shaken up. Big Mama is back in town, and she's requiring you to love more, to pay attention more, to authentically stand. If you ain't feeling it, say you're not feeling it. If you are feeling it, say you feeling it. Take the time to explain where you're coming from. Don't leave the ones you love to the treachery of assumption. Make things clear and apparent. We have now entered into a time that love is honestly being called to save the day. And when I say love, that could be tribal love, it could be romantic love, it could be intellectual love, but it really is from the right brain hemisphere, the resources of the right brain hemisphere, and what all that entails. It is going to require some due diligence with sifting through the bullshit. It is going to require the courage to not lead folks into believing you feel this way when you honestly feel that way. To slay this thing we call implied consent. If you ain't cool with it, life is now requiring you to say, I ain't cool with it. Do not leave people to assume that they got a thing with you when they don't. Or don't leave people to assume they don't have a thing with you when they do. I think one of the greatest tragedies on this fucking planet is for someone to think that you don't love them when you honestly do. The thief and the robber, in my opinion, the thief and the robber of the EQ vault is not saying anything, or I got all this stuff going on, so if I say something, how can I say this? Because it comes up in conversation quite a bit where it's, nah, I'm just gonna leave that alone because things over here is already messy. So if I go tell this person how I feel, I'm not sure how that they may receive me, or it may blow this up over here. And I know it's complex because I can't even get it out. Like, it is so fucking complex. I get it. Trust me, I do. But I also believe that with the ushering in of this eclectic energy called divine feminine energy, which resides in male and female. Divine masculine energy, divine feminine energy, both reside within the human body. That's what makes up the celestial entity. The celestial. Now I'm speaking from, from like I said, I gotta on. I have to always like disclose that I'm not speaking this to say that you have to be into this. I'm sharing a part of me. So I digress. Inside that epicenter of energy resides both. It is genderless. Only the physical body has gender. The essence that dwells within the physical embodiment is masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang, the infinity figure eight. It ebbs and flows simultaneously, which I honestly think has a lot to do with the planetary infusions and transits and conjunctions and sextiles and yeah. But I will not go down that rabbit hole right now. We might tap into it as the series unfold, but I just wanted to put that into the introduction just to give awareness that we will go there. We will have the tendency to go there. So as I bring the introduction to a close, I am going to rattle off some of the more important aspects that we will be contemplating and poking and exploring, as well as tap into a card spread that I pulled just before recording to serve as the underlying thematical energy, the trajectory, the what can I call it? The portal threshold to set the pace. And I will say that when the cards came out and I began to give it just a soft contemplation, my heart began to speed up with what this series is going to mean to me after it's unfolded and I've had time to visit with it in hindsight. Usually when I am recording series or I get the notion to produce one, I'm not fully into what it all means. Only after I have given it time to settle and go back and review it do I pick up what is meant as a viewer or as a scholar of it. Because right now I'm honestly being used as the tool to translate. But just giving a bird's eye view of the card layout gives me the indication that some very heavy hitting lessons and teachings and just overall comprehension is is being situated to flow through. So one of the golden keys of this series is the word axiology. And axiology, Axiology, is the study of the nature of value and valuation, things that are fitting to be desired, our pleasure principles, whether we're talking about inward or outward, those of our invisible comforts, aka the things that come through us, that come through intuitively, or that which is from the outer limits, which we often like to consider creature comforts. Now, right at this moment, that which will bring comfort to the physical body is now being shifted and shaken up. It's and in some cases with a lot of folks, damn near being threatened. Many of us are being urged to shift paradigms and switch up how we move in this world. So, next golden keyword is, well, not necessarily keyword. I think it's a rites of passage, in my opinion. The last shall be first. We are now witnessing the proactive energies that are turning the hourglass. And for such a long time, we were doused in the energies of logic. Big Mama's back in town. The EQ vault is now open. Now we have to pay attention to that which has been historically neglected. And that is how we feel versus what we think. That you now, you, we, like the Honorable Muhammad Ali, me, we. It's me in contemplation with self, know thyself, and then as it links to we for the greater consciousness, the collective. Me represents or is symbolically represented as one puzzle piece. We will spread out and reveal the bigger picture. Everyone sinks in and fits in exactly where they are supposed to, as long as they are striving to be their authentic self. There is not a puzzle piece that I've ever met that tried to shapeshift into something it wasn't already cut out to be. And I think that's what the move of this energy is requiring that we do, that we get more centered with that which honestly depict those levels of vibrancy inside that we tend to hide for the sake of wanting to be accepted or understood or to belong. When in actuality, the moment we let loose of that, we will be magnetically drawn to where we honestly are supposed to link up to inside the bigger picture. So, legacy building, imagineering, narrative psychology, music as medicine, art as alchemy, sacred solitude, while we all buckle up and face that which I like to call valley, validation, and shadow work, we're no longer going to be running from our shadows. And what's so ironic and uncanny is that our shadows continue to chase us like it's part of us. Doesn't matter how fast you run, the minute you stop and turn around, shadow right there. And it's not as spooked out or as frightening as the mainstream flow would lead us to believe. It's all part of the same entity. Face off with it, especially once you have the courage to lay down this ultra positive attitude and just lean into the notion that the balance is required. Like 19 Keys often says, you can't build unless there's balance. And you need the light and the darkness to intertwine to bring you the sturdy foundation needed to build upon. Stop running from what society may be trying to shame you for, or what has been shunned traditionally. If you're into dragons and gargoyles, go check it out. Research yourself and develop yourself around that which you are honestly in tuned and attracted to. Because those that care what other people think about them above what they think about them are going to emotionally perish. And we have now entered into the vibration, the vibratory essence of now you gotta face off with the way you honestly feel about things. If you want to be single and you're married, hey. If you want to be married and you single, hey. If you want two people, like, okay, so just all I'm saying is lean into that, what you honestly, yeah. Doesn't mean you're going to get it immediately, but don't cut it off. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't figure that you're not worthy of it. And please get out of the assumption that morality is king, because it's not. And if there are any Bobby Hemmett scholars out there, go back and watch his lecture series talking about the cosmic elite. Make sure you gather your notes for the sake of self development, for the sake of self actualization. Allow yourself the permission to dream about that which you honestly, authentically want. The invisible world is being suctioned dry for the lack of hope, for the lack of the tending to one's invisible landscaping. Big Mama has come and she has opened the valve on the now. And we're talking in tarot metaphysical, metaphorical speech. I've constantly been thinking about the Ace of Cups, the King of Cups, the Queen of Cups, like honestly, the Nine of Cups, the Ten of Cups, and what that means in the spaces where one's invisible space is deserted, it's dry, it's destitute, it's full of logic and no emotion. So I'm going to close the introduction with a sweep through of the card layout, which I will include in the closing credits of probably all of the segments for the series, so that you can put your eyes on it. I am using the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Krantz, as well as the Angels and Ancestors Oracle deck by Kyle Gray. What I decided to do was just pull one card from the Angels and Ancestors to be the lead, and then the rest was pulled from the Wild Unknown Tarot, because that's exactly what we are in. We are looking and dealing and facing off with the eye of this chaotic storm. We've officially crossed the threshold into the wild unknown. Now you can stay right there at the gate and be all scared and timid and freak the fuck out, or you can do like my guy did in the movie The Martian, and you can take account of what you actually have right then and there. You can go ahead on and tap into the practice of journaling how you feel and what's going on with you moment to moment, day to day. You can keep stock in that, knowing that there's going to be a time when you're going to venture into hindsight, and some answers are already going to be sitting inside that journal, readily available for you to launch. That it might not mean much to you right now as you're pouring it out on the paper. And I am an advocate of the head to hand practice. Typing it is cool, and I only say that because I'm also an advocate of free will. So whatever feels good to you. But I believe that there is a primal source of redemption that comes through when it's rendered from the head through the hand onto the paper. There's a certain rhythm, synchronicity with thought that comes along with been able to just write something out. And it sharpens your handwriting. It yeah. Those, and anything with practice makes it damn near perfect. So here we go. So let me get my guidebook out. And so card number one that is leading this series is the Great Teacher. And so let me see what page that is on. So the Great Teacher is on page 36 of the Angels and Ancestors Guidebook. So let's see. Learn from spiritual experiences. Know that what is happening around you is divinely inspired. Learn from your current experiences, then share them with others. This card is inspired by Jesus, one who is one of the most widely acknowledged and loved spiritual teachers of all time. But there is a great teacher in every tradition, and this card represents the one to whom you feel closest, as well as the great teacher within. The teacher wears simple clothes here to dis the teacher wears simple clothes here to demonstrate that even if you live a simple life, it can be an incredibly spiritual one. He is surrounded by a sense of serenity and harmony because he has absolute trust in the higher power that moves through him. And the dove on the card represents receiving answers to prayers through signs and experiencing peace through joy. This card can represent a teacher in your life or a great teacher within. Either way, it shows that you have dedication. It shows that you have dedicated a lot of time, effort, and energy to understanding yourself and the world. You are having spiritual experiences. You are having spiritual experiences at this time and gaining a greater awareness of what you need to do in order to grow. There is a great chance that if you've been having any challenges recently, you've surmounted them and allowed them to be vehicles to lessons that are helping your spiritual connection. If you feel that you've received messages from heaven or the universe recently, this card is confirmation that these have indeed been holy experiences. And so that will serve as the guiding light to the rest of the cards. Now we tap into the Wow Unknown Tarot, and the first card is the Nine of Cups. When this card popped out, this is when it really got real for me because I'm not sure if I mentioned earlier, um, the Nine of Cups have been um, showing up in a lot of other non-related or seemingly non-related instances that was gearing me up to get in the mood to begin this series. And quite honestly, I still am not sure what the hesitation was all about. Maybe maybe it draws into me saying that I'm not going to be recording just for the sake of being recording. If there's something solid that I honestly feel in my heart needs to be rendered, then I'll go ahead and do it. And so maybe it was the natural succinction of waiting until there was a confirmed green light. 'Cause most often, especially with me being in this massive mind frame as a creative. If it doesn't move me, then I'll either write it down in my journal that it's an interest or it has popped up in my mind, or I just let it slide and wait for it to pop back up with the notion that if it's meant for me to manifest, that it'll show back up. This had been given me bit by bit on a daily basis for, like I said, for about 2 weeks. It wouldn't allow me to forget it. I knew that I was going to be talking about one's inner all stars and butterfly effects. So I had the theme of the series a while ago. Slowly but surely, certain things were tacking on until I want to say maybe about 2 hours ago. The momentum really made its presence known, and it was just like, okay, we're ready. Hit the record button and let's talk about it. So, the Nine of Cups, Bliss, Harmony, and it is on page 91 of the Wild Unknown Tarot Guidebook. And it says, at last, the card of wishes come true. When the Nine of Cups appears, worries and fears will be cast away. A new phase of peace and harmony awaits. The world seems to be granting your every wish. Good health, happiness, and even material gains are headed your way. Enjoy. And with me being quite familiar with this card, when I first read it, I was like, that does not have anything to do with what's going on right here, right now. But then I had to think about it, that this is a hardy component of what healthy emotionality is all about. And that those that are going to courageously embrace the energies that are now afoot and not fight it and truly step into their authentic selves or do the work to remove the dangerous clutter of logic and work with the emotional elementals to replenish their deserts, metaphorically speaking, that they will in turn be experiencing and encountering the unfoldings of the Nine of Cups energy. And so next card out is the Strength card. And that is on page that is on page 187. Mastery of emotions. It's common to think of this card as the roaring, devouring side of the lion. But look again. The strength this card suggests is a much deeper force that's found within. The lion represents our most patient, composed self. He's a master of focus, compassion, and self-control. When this card comes up, you are in need of harnessing this power for yourself. All the courage you need can be found in the muscle known as the heart. Next card is the Two of Pentacles, and that is on page 137 of the guidebook. Balance, change. The Two of Pentacles signifies inevitable change. Since the Pentacles suit relates to earthly possessions, this usually means a new job or financial situation or a move. Even if you fear this change, it needs to happen and might even be fun. Face it with grace. of a newly face it with grace. Face it with the grace of a newly formed butterfly, a world of possibilities balanced upon your delicate wings. Next card is the Father of Cups, also known as the King of Cups, and that is on page 101 of the guidebook. Diplomatic, open minded. The Father of Cups has a truly unique and dynamic personality. He's the most feminine of all fathers within the tarot and usually a patron of the arts. He's a dignified man who supports his family and community. The only thing holding this man back are his deeply rooted insecurities. They are vast and affect his personality in many unpredictable ways. And I gotta just stress in my most magical terms that the state of him being the most feminine of the fathers has nothing to do with sexuality. Femininity has everything to do with emotion, creativity, deep contemplation, intuitiveness, the intricate and nuances of one's inner landscapings. We have been socially conditioned, aka mentally damaged, through the annihilation of adequate emotions, healthy emotions, balanced, sturdy, solid emotions. The powers that be have done such a great job with assassinating the characteristics of proper, nurtured, balanced, healthy emotions. It is not a girly thing. Do yourself a favor if you feel some kind of weird about the embracing energy from the Father of Cups. Do yourself a favor and take some time to research and develop around our golden keyword axiology. Find out what it is that you value. And I'm almost certain that when you come to grips with that, it's going to be femininity all around, in and around, in and out of that. So the last card is the Five of Wands. And that is on page 53 of the guidebook. Scattered, lack of focus, lost. The Five of Wands is a card of conflict. You may find yourself scattered, distracted, tending to everything and nothing. Since wands deal with our dreams and goals, it usually means this conflict resides within. Your energy moves outward in many directions, yet you are suffering inside. Take this card as a warning. Find ways to bring calm and focus to your mind, or these troubles will only increase. I will end on a note that because I am still a novice in tarot, it still leaves me breathless when cards come out and I begin to explore them and contemplate them and try to piece together the overall message. Sticking with the notion that the last shall be first, seeing as that the last card speaks about where we are right now, And it just entered to my mind. Okay, wow. Okay, so even in ancient scholarship, usually learning when reading and comprehending, you would read or you would translate from right to left. And in the Western world, we are groomed to read or comprehend or translate from left to right. So, so if we take it back to the antiquated times of learning and comprehending, we read the last card first. Then that depicts where we are right now and being threatened with all sorts of conflict and uncertainty. But most often, remember, the summary says most often it's dealing with the conflict from within. If we were to move through the cards in a counterclockwise fashion, making the last card first and the first card last, we will find ourselves inside the momentum of the great teacher. And we will have worked our way through each card, giving homage to the weighing of the odds, the balancing and the reconciling of logic and emotion, as well as tapping into the releasing of the lock on our authentic emotions and our ability to nurture our authentic selves. And then by the time we reach the great teacher card, we will have solid testimonies of how we have cocooned ourselves during this seemingly crazy yet uniquely intriguing and intimidating time, and how our small but certain butterfly effects succinctly pours into this phenomenally unique and eclectic force of all starness. Hashtag North Star Narratives. Man, I could have made this up. This is true. This is truly was a free flow. Like this is a freestyle capstone coaching event. Shout out to MC Supernatural. Imagination is key. Your inner landscaping is key. Your solitude with self is key. The revision and the reforming of your specific axiology is key. The authentic telling of yourself with no shame is key. The leaning into and accepting your most truest self is key. The loving the one that you were meant to love is key. Do not marry for status or money or material. Don't do it. Do not do it. If all you have is love, you got more than most. Tap into the refurbishing of your authentic self. If you do happen to find yourself inside of a true power coupling, consider yourself privileged and lock in, tap in, tune in. And I now digress. Oh, I did digress. I digress. I am going to leave some links inside the show notes that will serve as intellectual seeding if you want to explore more about um, Chiron and the Wounded Healer, as well as Noam Chomsky's documentary in conjunction with his book Manufacturing Consent, as well as a documentary called The Century of Self, which talks a lot about the evolution of public relations and propaganda and the machine that is now called mainstream media. And the last reference that is just totally me being totally me being the black girl wizard. It is a short summary on fairy stories by J.R.R. Tolkien. So that is it for our introductions into this catalytic sparkling series. I thank you for hanging out with me. This truly has been great, especially since I actually did it, pushing against the force to not do it. So I'm glad that I am here in this moment with the introduction segment afoot. So thanks for joining me, and I wish you well.